intent is to go from A to Z on putting together things that we're going to sell for the green sale. Some of you are old hands, many of you might be new, so there are things I'm sure you know, but we're going to just go ahead and give you a complete feel. Well, they are not out yet, so I start this one from scratch. I start with vines from wisteria. I cut wisteria vines and I created the wreath with wisteria vines. And then the closest thing that I had on my yard that I thought would look good for the base, it was yew, because I don't have the balsam fir on my garden, so I use yew to create the base. And now we usually get them just like that with the base, and then we embellish them because we are a garden club. We have to make things look good, look better than they actually are everywhere else. So we start by creating little bundles. And I have a few here that I made ahead of time. And they are all different. I have yew, pine, and Andromeda. I have the mop head. I have some cedar and some white wanamus. This one is some boulevard and some cedar, which is a different type of cedar, and the white. I have pine, and the one that does very well for this is the arborvitaes, and there are different arborvitaes and different cedars too. We have some of the blue that has the little blue berries on, and there's one that is yellow that is very pretty also that I have here. And that's this one, usually has these little yellow berries on. So I'm going to try to do one bundle here just to show you how I put it together. I get a wire, and usually this wire will be pre-cut because I think somebody has been already cutting a lot of wire. And usually it's about 18 inches long. And I hold it about here. I'm not very fussy with this, but you want to leave a little bit because you don't want them to fall apart. I put my wire more or less in the middle. I try to get like this, match the wire on the back. I hold it tight, squeeze, and turn. Then I bring my wires to the front, right here. I squeeze and turn again. And I leave the wires up because you can cut the rest of this. We'll leave about this much. And I will show you why in a minute. Then I come here and we go to the wreath that they just purchased. And I try not to pack it on top. Put a flat on top like this. I lift a little bit of the original greens and I try to tuck the stem under. Now my wires are up here because I left them facing up. I grab them, go around the back, give it a twist, a little tight, bring it up again, and then finish tightening up here. I find this to be very effective, leaving the wires facing up because it's easier to work with and they don't get lost in the greens. I have 3-4 examples of different things here to embellish the base of the wreath. So I'm going to put a couple more here to finish it off. I think I have 15 minutes. I don't know where's the timer. Where's the timer? You?
Yeah, really.
Cheryl?
Have someone
No?
look at the time.
Thank you.
I hope it's a friend of mine. So I'm going to do another one really quick. Twist on the back.
How long is that piece of wire?
18 inches.
18
inches.
Okay.
Twist it on the front. Trim my tips. Tie it on. And of course you would coordinate your bundles to do your wreath all the same. I would do a wreath with all this all around, or I would do it with all this, coordinate or alternate with Andromeda and Wanamus. I mean, here I'm kind of mixing everything because I'm just giving you an example. You go tie in the bottom, twist it, bring it up, twist again. Okay?
I know what's new to me here is alders are very pretty long, her bundles. You know, would you say like a...
Yeah, I make them probably a little bit big. I usually do this and I cut the extras, but sometimes I don't like them too small because you kind of want to enlarge the wreath from its original state when we buy them. They are very compressed because they have been traveling all bundled up together. If you ever buy them, they come in bundles of 6 and they're really tight together. So we kind of want to fluffen them up. So I'm going to leave this one like this, just with these greens. I hope you can see it. And then with this year, we're trying to do a little something different as far as the embellishments. When I started on Ways and Means 2016 with you, Judy, okay, I had Ways and Means for a while. So we were doing this, okay? We would do these ahead of time, and we would throw them here, okay? And we do this. And then we would throw a bow on it, and voila! Wow. We got a wreath. And believe it or not, these wreaths sold pretty well. But a couple years ago, a few people, including me, had the idea that probably being a garden club, we should try to do something more earthling, I should say, and try to do natural things, which is we're going to try to do at my house on the 29th. And Isabel came up with some ideas, and she said, pine cones are out there wasting, so we're going to try to do this. And we will have a little bit of a different concept as far as having a wreath that will be friendlier and people cannot say that it came from China.
And we'll also put the name.
Huh?
You already have those groupings.
Isabel made these. I didn't make them.
Pretty good, but when we do the reads.
When you do the reeds, you will get them like this. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do at your house.
These small little bundles, you're gonna do some at my house. And then we throw the bow on it, and we have the same reed with a very different look.
Even prettier.
Very classic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lovely.
Can we see
Okay.
all the, yeah, this way? Oh,
I love it. Love it. Yeah, very nice.
No, there's one more. Wait, I hope nobody is timing me. I'm gonna be really quick. I'm glad somebody enjoys watching.
Oh, shells.
We're also going to be working with shells. So, I'm just throwing this here. When we do this for real, I hope we don't have a timer on, and we'll be able to do it with a little bit more, be a little bit more precise. And we will have 2 or 3 people working together. You don't have to work by yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, just grab a friend or maybe just a new person that is not used to doing this, and you say, okay, let's get together. We're going to play. I call it play because that's what I do. I play with weeds. I play with... And again, I didn't make these, Isabel did, so. But it will do some of these. And that's why we ask you for branches. You know, see how these are on pine branches that have cones. And sometimes if the branches don't have the cones, we glue them on. But, okay. And now,
Just a real quick question, those oyster shells, are they hot glued to them, or are they wired?
they are glued.
They're glued.
Yeah. Okay. And here you have a total different look.
They'll sell out.
Very capey.
They're really beautiful.
Okay? And the bows, I'm using bows, they were returned to my house from last year. People returned stuff from last year's wreaths. We apparently had a very, very interesting bow making shop already, workshop, that we're gonna have beautiful bows to put on them. So I'm just using this as a simple example. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. My 15 minutes are up.
Okay, so here's a couple of samples for centerpieces, staying with that theme of trying to keep it organic and more natural looking. It's got some small pine cones and then a few bows on it. To me, it always seems like the centerpieces for the holidays are real traditional, has a candle with it. So I have quite a few of these candles, so I can donate them to be made. And we'll include a caution, you know, don't light it, walk away. Don't have your child that's 2 years old watch it. So it's a mix of greens. I did tint the pine cones with paint so that there was a contrast, so that will all be done ahead. The greens that I have are white pine, holly. I don't have boxwood, so I used a variegated Oregonia. But I was thinking if we could use the euonymus in it.
So pretty.
Just because that pop of white, I think, really helps. What else? White pine, and then balsam, which is pretty typical. So I'm just going to I'm not going to take the time to make the whole thing, but I'm going to explain how it is assembled. Just use a low plastic dish. The arrangement is all about the greenery and everything and not the container. So that's what I focused on. We have some floral foam that I'm going to use. We'll cut that to size. We'll go in the middle, and then then we'll trim. And I can do step-by-step instructions to make sure. So the foam, I pre-soak it before it goes in. A little floral tape. This is waterproof. This will keep it from flipping out or sliding out. And you don't want to be stingy with the tape because the whole idea is to keep this stationary. So even though you can see the tape, when we put the greens in, it's going to be a collar that touches the lip, and it will be about the same width all the ways around. That's going to drape down so you don't see the dish. And it's just whatever mix you want to work with. You can start with, I usually like to start with something that has some density to it. And the thing when you're working with, I know this looks like a lot of foam, but the branches, the foam is not forgiving. So every time you put a stem in, the hole stays there. So also when you're putting in your greenery, and I know this sounds probably, I don't know, too fussy, but when you're putting your stems in, you want a clean stem. Because you need to have as little as few holes as you possibly can so you don't overwork the foam. If you overwork the foam, it can fall apart. So if you're trying to put something like this, whoops, really flat, like this, it's going to create a hole too big. And you only need about an inch to go into the foam. If you start putting the stems in like long and they start crossing over because you think a little is good, more is better, what ends up happening is the stems cross over and will chop up the foam. So you only need it in far enough to make it stay put. So when I'm putting this in, you run all of your greens all the ways around the lip. And I'll do that with, I'll bring some turnstiles for the design. I think I have 12. And you just do little clusters. You want them about the same length so that your centerpiece will be approximately the same all the ways around. And every time you put a piece in, I always recommend turning it. And what that does is it helps balance it. I save all my little pieces that can go on the top, strip off any of the green, and you just do this all the ways around. And then I'll go back and I did the pine so that I start to cover the sides. I start from the bottom and I work my way up with this design. So we have this candle. It's going to sit right in the middle. Whether people light it or not, I have no idea. You know, that's their choice. We give them hopefully they can read and they just know, don't leave it. What I usually will do is take a few pieces of the greenery that have a nice stiff stick, and I'll just put that right around the base of the candle. So it's covering the foam, but it's also acting as a little brace to help keep the candle in place. So once you establish how the bottom is, then you'll go around the top, and it can be an inch or this is maybe a little bit high, but once you get that circle done, this circle done, then you'll fill the center and you'll go all the ways through.
Hannah, excuse me. I must have missed it. What's holding that candle in? Did you cut a hole or glue it or something?
No, it's just some of these.
Just those?
Yeah.
Holding the candle, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once people get it, I mean, they may have to take it off to travel, but
Okay.
it will stay put.
Okay.
I mean, we can buy adapters that will push in, and then the candle fits in, but you're adding cost to it again. So I calculated the cost on this. It's like around $3. So we could, I mean, because it's to fundraiser.
Right.
And so I kind of estimated what both would be. And that would be with our free candle. So, so I would go all the ways around until it's all full. And then once all the greens are on, we can have these bows pre-made. I forgot to bring my dish, so this is going to fall apart when I take things out. So before I start adding my extra decorations, this just makes everything shine. And it really, so you can see this is kind of flat. It's just an oil. And you can see how it really, it cleans it up.
What's it called, Anna?
It's leaf shine. They sell it, they sell it for plants. I don't like to use it on my plants because it seals in the leaves, but it's great for design work, and I use it on my boxwood trees all the time. And it kind of just seals the moisture in. And it doesn't stay high gloss like this, but it puts a nice sheen onto it. So I would recommend using that. Okay, so once it's all greened, we're just going to spray the centerpiece. Then we add the decorations. And what I did was, you're going to have to use your imagination. We'll use the wire. This ribbon has a wire on it, wired ribbon, so it can stay a little sculptured. And we'll just put one on one side, one on the other side. the pine cones. I use the little kebab, like shish kebab stick. Just wrap that around. Each one is wired individually. And I put them right with the candle. So let's just flip this over. Okay, so this is all in there. I have some holly with berries that we can add to it. Like I said, so what I did was I took the ribbon, put that in first. And then in order to cover the wire, I'll just take these pine cones and tuck them right over it. And it's pretty simple. It's really just a lot of small pieces with clean stems that all go in. And if you cut them about the same length, you'll be able to keep the shape. If you constantly turn it, it helps keep the shape also. Then the other one that's kind of is the elongated one. I was thinking red candles would probably look better, but I didn't have any skinny red. But now if we don't want to do candles, we don't need to do candles. I mean, we can just do a single one, and it's more of a red, traditional. Or we could do red and green. All I do with these candles, and I didn't have a green dish, so I sprayed this gold. But we can just use these. This is the type of dish I used.
And Ways and Means sells those.
Yeah, I just took it off the back table. We've got some foam here. And you don't need the whole thing. It's probably going to be too much. So I'm going to cut it right down the middle so it's half a block. Push it right in. This will have to get taped in also. I mean, it's bad enough the candle falls, but if somebody's arrangement wiped out before they got it home. And we just put a piece of tape, kitty corner, to hold it in place. I usually start with my candles first because I'm going to just push it right into the floral foam. That way, and I can just push these down a little bit. And again, it's going to be the same thing. Start around the lip, and then and then along the top, and then fill in on the sides. So this one, because it's an elongated design, probably want to use some of the longer pieces, longer extensions. And again, strip off the needles. Fewer the holes, it doesn't dry out as fast. My foot's sticking as I get tape. So I just want to, so whenever you're making any kind of an arrangement, you always want to outline the shape first. Just makes it easier if you haven't done a lot of designing. So I want my ends to be longer. Strip it off. You'll want to wear gloves probably. And then this is establishing how wide it's going to be. And then what you need to do is if you can, just use your imagination, and you're just going to cut the pieces so they stagger almost to create like a football shape. And you don't want everything to be absolutely flat. You want things, things are going to turn a little bit. I mean, everybody's garden's here, so your flowers don't stand at attention. So there's some turn a little this way, a little that way. So if you put that into your design that way, within reason, then it will flow. And then once you've got the base established, you'll put small pieces, again, strip them, put them around the candles. I find it easier to just use one type of green at a time, and then I'll go back in and mix it all up. But it gives you a little more control. If you're the type that you don't want things to look very contrived and formal and all the rest, start controlled, and then you can mess it up afterwards. Because if you try to start messy, it will just turn into chaos, and there won't be. That's what I find as kind of a new, as a new designer. And then you're just going to do the same, and so it's all around the bottom, the top, and then you need to transition. So when you look, you want it to kind of go down nice and slope. Once it's all filled, I treated my holly as a decoration. I wanted to make sure it popped. Plus, I also didn't want holly in there, so my hands were getting scratched up. So I put it in at the end. Just a couple of pieces of holly, cut it so the berries showed. With this one, the tails are longer because that color is going to, again, wired ribbon, you can make it float. And then you'll put your pine cone. Make sure you don't see the pine cone. You don't see the kebab. And then you'll put that in. And your candles would have already been in, and you would have been working around it. The reason I use the kebabs on this is if you're just using wire, it slides out. So the kebab keeps the decoration.
We find that baskets are very popular with people.
Yeah.
And the baskets, when you come to the workshop, the basket or a container, whatever it will be, will already have the foam in it, about a half to 3/4 of an inch above the level. So you'll be all ready to go. That's part of the Ways and Means jobs, I think, usually.
Yes.
Okay. This is one of the cases where for different ones, holly works and holly doesn't. But we don't recommend holly for the centerpieces because it dries out. The thick stems tend to pull at the foam. And there are so many other beautiful colors and things. Okay, so as I'm just going to reinforce a little bit, as Anna was saying, putting into the foam, it's very important to make sure that you clean off the bottom and that you cut it at an angle, and that try to place, once you place it, try to leave it there. If you pull them in and out, it makes a big, kind of a big space, and then if people carry them, they tend to, they might fall out. So another thing about falling out, if you have something like this, for instance, in this size basket, this is too wide and floppy. If you put it in there, it'll look like it'll take a lot of space, but over time, when things settle and might dry a little bit, it often will be, you can see the foam around it. And another thing is, sometimes we've had people wanting to put them in. So if you can see there's a side piece. So if you push in past that side piece, so you feel like it's nice and secure, but you've got the two side pieces in there, again, that's gonna be a hole that's too big, and they're gonna tend to fall out. So with that one, I would cut them apart. This one I would not use because this has a branch in it. And the branch, if you get a couple of branches in there, they show. It just doesn't look the best. So I would put in the smaller piece.
I know.
But if you have a piece like this, say, and you wanted to, you put it in and you've got it done and you say, it's sticking out too far. When you have the actual, I don't know how to say it exactly, but it's not stem. The stem is at the bottom, it's more so it's if it's a soft part, I mean, I wouldn't go straight across because it'd be obvious, but there are lots of places where you can kind of get inside a little bit, and that won't show when it's the, okay. When I started this one, I started, as Anna said, to reinforce, I got a couple, those couple, okay, decided what I was gonna start with, saw what was the right size. I don't want the pieces coming way down so that when you put it down, they're going to, get crushed. You just want to have them coming out a bit. And then I cut two of the same. And to begin, I did the same thing. I put one on each side, and then, now I didn't particularly use the same plant material, but what did I put here? I don't know. This one, no, but trying to find something different. Like you could do a side with this one and this one, but just to get that shape going. And the next thing I did was the center. I knew I wanted to leave the handle there, so I found one that was a top that I liked that was just high enough, so I would stay under it. So that's basically it. Again, on the theme that we're going with, a bow can also go on a pick. You certainly could tie it on it, but I wanted to kind of put it on the side. This one is gold centered, painted, the cones are painted gold. Here's another part stick and two cones, and this one I thought the size was good with this particular size basket. If you were doing a small container, it would probably be too big. But, and this is milkweed pots that I painted gold, and that's kind of a different, could be a good accent. I didn't cut it because I wasn't sure where I wanted to put it, but sort of. Of course, there's foam under there. So just the placement of a couple of natural things. There are other things. You'll have lots of things to choose from at the workshop. There'll be lots of picks and things. Some glittery things like these, to stick in. There'll be all kinds of bows and things to choose from. Well, you'll also have people wandering around. So as you wonder or think, or should I, shouldn't I, we'll be around to give you some support. Any questions?
And I brought the taller mug. We do have taller mugs. So we're going to have the foam raised so that we can go over the edges at least a little bit. So principles of design I still think apply even with a mug. You don't want, I don't think 1.5 times, but probably 1 time higher than the mug. I've always got a little tape measure with me when I do these things, but you can just go by look. So this mug is 6 inches, so I'd go 6 inches more, so probably 12 inches about here. And what I do, and I'm not a professional arranger for sure, is get the height first. So this, where are my clippers?
I've got
In
some
my
over
bag,
by where I
maybe?
was working.
Gee, can I borrow yours?
use mine?
I don't know where
Oh, those are, yeah.
Thank you, Judy. That's a little too long. So we'll start with the height. And this is juniper that I have there. And then I had some mugo pine. It's not a very old little shrub, so I didn't want to take too much off. But I figured that would go nicely on the side to cover the oasis. And I do even have some, if I want to later, I might even put a little drooping down the side.
Yep.
So when I get the sides covered, I will probably put a few more of these a little lower than the height I want. Definitely always taking the, stripping the bottom of the stem so you don't make that hole that we've been told about. Okay, well, I don't know if I'll have enough time to go all the way around here, but so I'll be going around the edge like that, and I'll make this a little lower than the first one I put in there, because I don't want it to have one point. It's very small and it seems like very simple, but it's still the same principles to make it as wide as you want, try to make the shape you want, and then adorn it with our natural adornments. It's too quiet in here.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Sure.
I'm looking at the box, and I think if people are going to be making arrangements, it would be good to bring a box or something to work off of, so you're not, because sometimes it's easier to stand and design,
Yeah.
but you don't want to be bending over the whole
Yeah, it's
time.
always easier to be.
Yeah, so something to prop it up, even if it's a bucket or something like that, just to turn it over, yeah. It will save your back, and then you'll also be able to have a better angle to make sure you're not missing the floor.
Definitely, we brought the box so people could see today,
Yeah.
but that's a very good
I
idea.
work on a
Do it
box
on my
quite
kitchen counter up here.
Yep.
It kind of isolates the piece that you're building from
You're right,
from what you've got to gather.
yes,
Yeah, right.
absolutely. Yeah, sometimes they get buried in amongst the green, you can't figure out, you start pulling it, you're pulling your arrangement
It
apart.
doesn't separate it, yeah.
I didn't bring enough of everything I want, so I'm gonna use a little, just white pines, go in between.
We'll ask
But what-
Kathy to put that in a reminder, when workshop's coming. To bring a bucket is a really good idea.
Yeah, bucket works out good.
Because you carry things anyway.
So once I get, I'll fill in better than that if I'm making this for real, but once I get that done, I'll start filling in. I don't know if that's gonna be too big or not.
What is it? What is the leaf?
This is a rhodie.
Oh, really?
I
think that
love
one-
using rhododendron because sometimes it
I
almost
think
looks
it's
like a
too tall.
magnolia.
It does, yeah.
But I figured a few in there would be good. I tried to pick small ones since it's a mug.
Yeah, I've had good luck with it.
I think mostly you have to have a plan.
Yep.
I think like Anna said, you need to go around the bottom, fill in the
Establish the
bottom,
height and then fill in.
and then fill in.
Yeah.
And filling in around that bottom rim is really important. I should have mentioned that too.
It is.
Especially if you're looking
No, I
down
don't-
on what you're putting together. Then when you lift it up and look and say, whoa, there's oasis.
Yeah, you don't want the oasis showing. Judy showed me that a long time ago.
Ooh, that pop really
Yes.
made a difference.
Andromedas here that are always look nice because they're a little different color and fill in beautifully. I had a big Andromeda that I had to remove from my yard and I'd miss it this time of year. I do have some holly, but like they say, it does dry out faster. I don't know if we really want to use it. We may not be that day, but we'll put a little in now.
Could we use the, for the red, because I grabbed the holly because I wanted the berries. Can we use the double-ended artificial berries? They look like real berries, but they're just like on a little skinny thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
We
kind of
use
on that.
these
Yeah,
too.
they're a little bit smaller, but they look like holly berries almost.
This is from my skimmia
That's okay.
bush, and they're beautiful. And Jan
They are.
Rogers has a lot of skimmia. She's the one that convinced me to use skimmia in my yard.
Skimmia is wonderful. If
It's
anyone
beautiful.
has Skimmia, you should bring it because that's a very nice accent.
I can't wait until it grows so I can use more of it.
So we can hit Jan's yard?
Yeah, we can hit Jan's yard.
Yeah, she'll be bringing a lot.
She's always telling me to hit her yard because we do church flowers together too, so I hit her yard quite often. But you just, because it's kind of a narrow at the bottom mug, I just wanted to shape it so it's a little tall at the top,
Really delicate.
not too wide.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill in with a few more. Whoops. With that skimmia, you hardly even need the adornments. It's beautiful. I think I may run out of time since I'm not fast. So I will complete the front. So at least you'll see what it looks like from the front.
Oh, look at that. Oh, I like that.
I went out in the yard, put some sticks in.